Okay. You there, Biff? When we come back, I'm going to do a couple of quick entertainment stories, if you want to use the entertainment theme, before I get to Bob. And then when I segue into Bob, hit the DC Digest, okay? All right, thanks. Nancy? Please. Thank you. No cans of anything.
Not cold.
Pepsi. Thank you.
Applications. There are more ways to watch and find video. To get the new WTRF-7 News app, just update the latest version or download the WTRF-7 News app in your Apple or Google Play Store by searching WTRF.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster, with a look at your local weather forecast for your start to the work week. Mostly cloudy skies, a few peaks of sunshine, but a few showers and storms to go along with the day. An afternoon high of 74. Your overnight low of 61. Under mostly cloudy skies, you'll see clouds with a stray shower for your Tuesday, with temperatures in the low 70s for afternoon highs. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
live and local in the Ohio Valley. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
It's 8:10 in the morning, 10 minutes after the hour, as things get underway for hour number 2 here on the Watchdog Morning Show. We are still looking at 65 degrees and cloudy at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 65 degrees cloudy at my home studio, 65 degrees and cloudy at the Robinson Auto Group Studios in downtown Wheeling. In the heart of the Ohio Valley, it's going to be a verstump day today. Rain showers today, rainy days and Mondays. They're going to get us down today. Cloudy, scattered showers, maybe a thunderstorm popping in and out throughout the day. Not raining all day long, but showers will pop up here and there throughout the day. 73 for the high today. Going to be a rainy week, actually, all week long. Temperature's going to rise as the week goes by, though. Couple of things coming up today here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Of course, back from my Rocky Mountains region vacation. Had a tremendous time there. I'll drop a few little tidbits and stories in there, a little travel log for you. What I did on my summer vacation when I had a chance. A lot of fun things, a lot of quite enjoyable things, up to the top of the Rockies, 12,000 feet almost above sea level. Woo! I could barely breathe, and I could barely walk, which is a whole different story. But I tried Rocky Mountain oysters. That's the big thing. I did try Rocky Mountain oysters. Bull's testicles, but they were fried, kind of like chicken. Also today, coming up, a lot of talk locally and nationally about a nursing shortage. University of South Florida nursing professor Raina Latourneau is going to join us. She has some different ideas on how to tackle the nursing shortage and offers her opinions for us. I-70 and downtown Wheeling traffic patterns changed today. Should mention that over the weekend. I-70 heading through the tunnels towards Elm Grove is now open all the way. You can get from Ohio all the way to Wheeling Hospital and points to the east of that. That's the good news. The complicating news is that as of this morning, unless things did not occur as scheduled, but as of this morning, they were going to close the downtown ramp that leads into Wheeling from Fort Henry Bridge. So if you're going into downtown Wheeling, going over the Fort Henry Bridge, you got to go through the tunnels, over the 16th Street ramp, swing around, get off in East Wheeling, go through East Wheeling, come back through downtown. So be aware of that. Not only do you want to be aware of it, maybe give it an extra minute or two to make sure you know what you're doing, but be careful because other people may not be aware of that as well. Mail delivery being slowed down may be more expensive this holiday season as well. Oregon is prohibiting teachers from political or controversial symbols. Redistricting seems to be the big deal in West Virginia this past week. Brad McClellan is going to join us with that, and Bob Ney here in just one quick second to talk about the latest on Capitol Hill. But first at 8:12 in the morning, a couple of quick entertainment tidbits for you here this morning. The movie Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Venom, the Marvel superhero character, starring Tom Hardy and Michelle Williams, was the best opening of the domestic box office during the entire pandemic, $90.1 million. Black Widow previously held that record with $80.8 million. I watched Black Widow on the free airline movie over the weekend, first time I got a chance to see that movie. I wasn't real impressed with it. So Venom, number one at the box office this weekend. The Addams Family 2, number 2. Shang-Chi, another Marvel movie, came in at number 3. The Many Saints of Newark at the theaters came in at number 4. That is the Sopranos prequel. Tony Soprano and Paulie Walnuts and the whole gang, but from when they were teenagers. So it's going back to the 70s. And it's also on HBO Max, and I definitely want to see that. But I definitely want to go see it. I want to see it. I'll see it on HBO Max. I did not get to see it over the weekend. It will be absolutely my number one thing. No, number one is sleeping. After I get off the air.
Yeah.
It'll be my number 2 thing to do today is to watch. Number 2 will be. It'll be my number 3 to do today, The Many Saints of Newark, because I did not see that. In fact, I just got a note just wondering if you have seen it, Howard. No, I have not seen it. Don't give me anything away. We'll talk about it tomorrow. The original Law and Order is coming back to NBC. The original one. They've got Law and Order SVU and Criminal Intent and what's the new one with Stabler? Organized Crime. They got a dozen Law and Order shows. The original Law and Order is coming back to NBC. Dick Wolf, who created the series to begin with, is going to do it. It ran for 20 seasons and they stopped. They're calling this season 21. Hey, I love Law and Order, one of my favorite episodic TV shows. Oh, Lord, I hope they don't mess this up. I'm afraid they could. All right, some quick entertainment tidbits I thought you might want to know about this morning here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Now it's time to head up to Capitol Hill.
Here's some of the news from the nation's capital you'll be talking about today. This is the DC Digest on the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
While I was away, I didn't keep track of a lot. Well, first place, not an internet service, very spotty at the places we were out in the Rocky Mountains and some of the national parks and so on. Very spotty internet. But occasionally I would check in the evenings some of the news, and a lot of stuff going on Capitol Hill. Democrats are having their own internal battles. The infrastructure bill, the social spending bill that's supposedly tied to that bill. Then there was the question of is the government going to shut down over the weekend? They managed to handle that. I got to think about all this stuff, and I reached out to Bob Ney, former congressman, because I always appreciate the insight he brings to things. Congressman, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning.
Did any of the stuff that happened this weekend surprise you? There was concern about raising the debt ceiling. There was possibility of a government shutdown. That did not happen, yet at least. Did any of that surprise you?
I was more surprised Mrs. Monroe got you out of Wheeling. That shocked me more than anything Pelosi or Biden could do, to be honest with you. Anyway, I couldn't help that. You have to give me some leniency.
I will.
Well, yeah, a few things. And, I mean, if you look at this, the visit to Capitol Hill surprised me by the president. I know that's, you're going to say, what? But the visit to, he's a seasoned lawmaker, and I know he's the president, but it was sort of one of those times you may not want to go down there to kind of ingrain the progressives to, what they're doing. I think he went as a mediator, I've been saying this all along. I mean, look, if you look at the President of the United States, the Speaker of the House, and the leader of the Senate, that's Senator Manchin. He's all three right now. I said that on my radio shows I call. And here's the mistake I think the progressives made, and Senator Schumer, too. According to what was leaked, which, by the way, I believe was Senator Manchin's office, Howard, leaked this, that he told them this summer $1.5 trillion this summer. And if that's accurate, then whether people like it or they don't, and by the way, Senator Manchin is kind of the front person for Senator Sinema from Arizona. She's a Democrat. Right. I mean, he's out saying everything until now, and then she's happy with what he's doing. And there's probably two more, too, that are happy, but he's the out front face of it. And so the president, goes over to the Capitol, and he talks to him about the human infrastructure bill, the $3.5 trillion, et cetera. And then he says, well, it might be $1.9 trillion or, 2-some trillion. I don't think so. The reality is the Senate is stuck, and they have to go with the number that Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema are coming up with. Now, Senator Manchin's been way more out front. Senator Sinema holds the cards real close to her vest. She's famous for that. So that kind of surprised me that they're to that point and that the president went to the Capitol. Again, I know he's trying to cut a deal, but kind of empowered progressives on a path that they really don't have. Right now, progressive Democrats, Pelosi, Schumer, and Biden are in the losing side of this, technically. Centrist Democrats are on the winning side. Small group, very powerful. And Republicans, no matter what anybody thinks of Mitch McConnell's tactics, are on the winning side right now because they're just sitting there. That's why.
Do you, on the House side of things, you have I don't know what you call it, the AOC Progressive Caucus or whatever.
90
you have the very left caucus.
Right.
You have Manchin, Sinema holding things up in the Senate. On each of those, the Senate and the House, are these well-intentioned mavericks, or are they just nuisances to the whole system?
Well, probably both, I think they're well-intentioned. They believe what they're doing. You know, they didn't win with their presidential candidate, Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. So what are they supposed to do? They've got to have, you know, I think their intentions are true. They've got to have their priorities because they really didn't win with their candidate. Biden wasn't their candidate, you know. And but on the other hand, the second part, as you asked the question about framing them, at some point in time, you have to come to reality, and this is where they're obstructionists. You know, unless you can take Joe Manchin out in a primary in West Virginia or in a general election in West Virginia, and that's not next year, then they've lost. And this is where they were becoming disruptive. They're pushing for something they can't have. Now,
Well,
they can have the goal of the language, but they can't have the dollar figure.
But if does that advance any cause? I mean, I guess I tend to be more of a realist than a stickler for, you know, by golly, I'm going to get my way no matter what. I'm with the progressives on what they want, but I always am looking around and saying, can you get it? I don't think they can get anything close to what they want.
You and I agree completely on what I just said and what you said. Same thing. I think they're true to their cause. I think they're trying to make a point. If they got $1.5 trillion, by the way, let's look at this. This is the horrible thing about this. They're so stuck on numbers. If they get $1.5 trillion, forget the number, or if it's $3.5 trillion, they're going to get law changes that really don't exist in current law now. Progressive law changes. They're going to get it with $1.5 million. They're just going to have less money to spend on it.
Well, there's a laundry list of progressive issues that they want to deal with. Some are climate issues, some are the child care tax credit, making it permanent, and so on. What's going to have to happen is, what I think, if you're a member of the progressives in the House, you've got to say, all right, what can we get through the Senate? Right. And if it's 1.5 million or whatever the number that Manchin says, and he may play a bit. I know he says 1.5, and he was adamant this weekend, but maybe it's 1.9. I don't know. He's gonna. If you're a progressive over in the House, you got to say, all right, here's the list of priorities that are in this bill. Which ones are the most important to us?
Correct. That's right. They've got two choices. One, which you just stated, which are most important, or they get them all at a reduced price. Now, what I mean by that, they get every single goal, but you're not going to have as much money to fund that. So, let me give you a perfect example of this. Dental and eye care are in there for Medicare. Yeah, personally, I love that. Okay, it's in there for Medicare. Now, it's going to be basically sort of a full funded program. If they're back on money, then here's what they'll end up with. Seniors, you're going to get 50% off of your dental and eye care, okay? Instead of, almost full funding it.
Instead of fully paid, yeah.
That's better than not having it. So that's where I think they have to, do they want to full fund less new priorities and not fund some of them, or do they want to fund it all just with reduced money? Hoping, of course, one day to put more money into it. Who doesn't when you have your goals?
I hate cliches, but the cliche is you can't let the perfect be the adversary of the good.
Good, right? Steny Hoyer, that number 2 guy in the Democrat House, that was all, and that's the way he feels today. That was his mantra. He's not one of the progressive sides, but he's for what Pelosi was for, making a deal. And for the first time, I must say, Speaker Pelosi cannot control at all the progressive side. And then the progressives got into name-calling, saying, Manchin was insane and things like that. That doesn't help you. They didn't face a fact, and so they become obstructionists, and they really could suffer a fate of losing the entire ball of wax because they still got the debt ceiling to deal with.
Well, and that's the point I wanted to get to, though, was the ultimate problem could be that by sticking to their perfect, not the good, and therefore not playing ball with the centrists, either in the House and then over in the Senate, it may be that nothing gets done.
Yes.
And if nothing gets done, that's not going to play well for Democrats in the next election.
Right. Here's what they will say. Well, Mitch McConnell, and by the way, I watched Durbin on TV yesterday, Senator Durbin, Democrat from Illinois, and they kind of nailed him on, quote liberal channel. I think it was NBC I was watching, but they kind of nailed him because they said, well, about the Democrats will have failed, and he goes, well, no. He said, you have it wrong. He said something like this, we have it wrong. We need 60 votes. People don't pay attention. She came back and said, well, but the Democrats control the Senate, and that's the old cliche of the Senate. Well, yes, we control. Republicans used to say this, by the way. Yes, we control, but we don't have enough votes. That doesn't cut, out in society.
Well, I think to the general public, people on programs like this, we're all much more informed and tuned, whatever. But to the general public, Democrats control the Senate.
Right, and so
And
if they fail on human
that's the period sentence that they look at. Well, if you control the Senate, and right now you have the numbers in the House as well, and you can't get what you want done, then what good are you? A lot of people are going to say.
Right, they can't argue, and they will also chill the progressive base. So, and if they lose the infrastructure bill, the $1.2 trillion, that's going to, believe me, that's going to be really bad because the Senate already passed the bill. You've got governors, and including Republicans in multiple states saying, oh, wow, look what we get. That's all over the place. So, yes, they will lose.
You've got progressives in the House who seem to be willing to lose that bill if they can't get what they want in the other bill, the social spending bill.
Absolutely.
Which to me is not good. Bob, let's talk about the funding the government. We had the possibility of a government shutdown this weekend. That was averted, but that's only temporary, right?
That's temporary. Let's look at the real true date. Now they're saying the 18th. October 15th is sort of the, do something or not date in order to prepare technically the paperwork for the 18th when it expires.
The 18th supposedly is when we literally run out of the ability to fund the government because the debt ceiling will have been hit around there.
Right. Now, I think there's a growing possibility of a short-term temporary debt limit, and it would last maybe, I want to say, Howard, days or weeks at the most. It would last. Now, why would they do that? Mitch McConnell has said he won't. Well, that would stave off a government shutdown, but it gives him sort of bargaining power. We'll extend the government, the debt ceiling temporarily, et cetera, and it kind of gives him bargaining power on a lot of different issues with Schumer. So that's what I think will happen. It will eventually go on because neither side really wants to play chicken on this, because the Democrats can say, well, the Republicans shut down the government. But right now, this is a 40-year high on a lot of things, food, et cetera. And if this shuts down, it's not going to be good. Now, Durbin's technically correct. All McConnell is doing is paying for things he already voted for. Let's make that crystal clear. He would be paying for things he already voted for as a Republican. Right. But the fact remains, he's now saying, well, yes, but they're trying to put $3.5 trillion more into the debt, and I'm not going to stand for this, and this is why I'm changing my mind, on and on and on. So I think the Senate will continue to do these short-term deals to avoid a collapse. That's what I think.
Is there electoral politics behind this? We won't have a collapse, but we'll get ourselves to the election, then we can run on this issue?
I believe so. And the issue will be mismanagement, of the government, spending, ultra-liberal programs. And then here's one thing I'm going to throw in here right now, besides inflation and COVID, but I'm going to throw in, if this is true, what Panama is saying about 60,000 people heading to the southern border, throw that in there, it's going to be a tough year. And especially if they haven't passed anything.
It's Democrats went into this year saying, all right, we took back the White House. That's no surprise. I think people just didn't want Donald Trump. Sorry, Mr. Trump, nobody wanted you. So Biden gets the presidency. The House actually lost some votes, some Democrat votes, but they still have the House. and the Senate came, I mean, the Democrats, quote, control the Senate with Harris's tie-breaking
Right.
vote, but they can't get anything done. And when you've got, in the minds of the public, you got all three branches of the government right now are in your hands. I said the same thing about Republicans. You know, all three branches in your hands. How can you complain that there's a problem? You're in charge.
Well, in 2000, George Bush, we had a Republican House. I was there, and we had a 50-50 Senate. People forget that. 50-50.
I don't remember that, really.
Oh, yep, sure did. Had a 50-50. And then Senator Jeffords eventually, in I think 6 months, switched Democrat. Then we had a 50-50 Democrat Senate. Yes, and then it switched over, but we did. Now, I would come home to the Lincoln Day Republican dinners, and I would say all the things we did, you know, in the House, the Republican-controlled House, and Republicans would say, well, yeah, but that didn't pass the Senate, and that didn't pass the Senate. And I would say, well, you know, they don't have enough votes, and they would say, this is Republicans. No, the Senate's Republican. Well, it's 50-50. It doesn't matter. They're Republican. See, that's how either side of the party, that's how the hinterland, the actual, I call them real earthlings, think, not the politicos.
I agree. All right, sir. Appreciate your time. I want
Thank
to like
you,
your insight.
Welcome
Thanks
back.
very much. Have a good day. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks.
Former congressman from our area, Bob Ney, who checks in from time to time. I got thinking about all this stuff last week while I was away, and I thought, Bob can come on and give us his perspective. Always appreciate hearing that. You know, Biffy, I have tried very, very hard to be a supporter of Senator Manchin's. I really have. I mean, I've known him for years. I back in Secretary of State days and governors, and we've always had a good relationship. And I support him, and I'm kind of a centrist as well. You know, my policies are progressive, but maybe I'm a realist, I guess what I'll call myself. And I'm really bothered that Manchin is mucking up the works. I mean, just quite frankly, I mean, his idea that we're going to get compromised, we're not. There's not going to be compromise anywhere with these Republicans. He's now talking about means testing, you got to read between the lines on what that is. He did talk about it it was over the weekend, but last week he talked about means testing federal programs. You know, well, maybe some people shouldn't be getting their benefits. They're not working hard enough. Well, that's a bunch of baloney. And Joe Manchin is never going to change parties. It'll pop up again in a month or two. Will Joe Manchin become a Republican? No, he's not going to change parties. He's going to be a Democrat. And he holds true to the bedrock principles of the party. But he's mucking this stuff up for Democrats. I mean, Democrats have a narrow, and the window is almost shut now. But at the beginning of this year, we had a very narrow window to get things done. We haven't got anything done. Infrastructure bill was passed in the Senate. That was a big deal, an agreement that was made on that $1.5 trillion infrastructure bill. That was a big deal, good compromise there. And now you get the Republicans, the progressives in the House refusing to sign on to pass that bill, because they want the big $3.5 trillion spending bill. Now, look, the ads we're hearing right now, we're going to hear some in a minute here, talking about Senator Manchin. You need to call Senator Manchin, tell him to stop the socialist programs and stop abortion. That's falderall. That's baloney. Those ads are just not giving you the facts. But Manchin, by holding the line here, is not going to let it's going to end up that the Democrat agenda, nothing's going to get done. Nothing's going to get done. Even the infrastructure bill, which had been a compromise, it's not going to get done because of the progressives. Listen, politics is a game of reality. And I've had this argument with many people. I have it on the air. I'm never afraid to have the argument with my good progressive friends on the air. You know, you can hold to your principles all you want. By golly, we're not going to cave. We're going to hold out for him. And you know what you're going to have? You're going to have three branches of government in the next election controlled by, well, the president won't change for at least until 4 years, but you're going to have both houses, the House and the Senate, go Republican. Then what are you going to do? Anyway. Biff, we have the answer to our question, by the way. Hoppy is not back today.
Ah, okay. Must be Dave Wilson then again today.
Got a note from Dave. Hoppy is scheduled back tomorrow, but Dave Wilson will be in again today on statewide talk line. So I don't know what's the story with Hoppy. My guess is this must be an illness, not a vacation, because it's being extended sort of day by day. So Dave Wilson filling in for Hoppy again today on statewide talk line. That's at 10:06 today, right here on the Watchdog. It's 65 and cloudy at the airport at my home studios, the Robinson Lauder Group Studios, downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. It's going to be a rainy, cloudy, verstummt day today, all day long. We're going to be talking about redistricting in West Virginia. I know it sounds boring, but it's the bedrock of what happens every 10 years that gives us a sense of where we are going in the future. We'll talk to Brad McClinney about that coming up on the Watchdog Morning Show.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now it's time for your look.
Okay, I'm back, Biffy. Let me know when Brad's on. Or maybe you already did. I was away from my... Okie dokie.
Senior safety Sean Mahone intercepting a pass in the opening quarter, his first of the season, the third of his career. Mahone finished the game with 10 tackles, marking the third time he's reached double-figure tackles this season. Offensively, Letty Brown scoring on a 4-yard touchdown run in the third quarter. That's his 6th rushing touchdown of the season, the 20th of his career. And Brown has now scored a touchdown in 9 of West Virginia's last 13 games. Casey Legg remains perfect on the season. He is now 8 of 8 in the field goal department. And redshirt junior defensive lineman Taj Alston, 2.5 tackles behind the line, the only Mountaineer to record at least 1 tackle for a loss in every game this season. That is today's Mountaineer Report, brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield.
Community Bank presents Rock, Roll, and Doo-Wop Volume 19, Saturday, October 30th at Wheeling's Capitol Theater. Featuring Bobby Rydell, Terry Johnson's Flamingos, The Marvelettes,
Oh, yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Wait,
The Reflections, and PBS TV star Chris Ruggiero. Tickets are on sale now by calling 304-233-7000 or online at CapitolTheaterWheeling.com. Don't miss Chris Ruggiero, The Reflections, The Marvelettes, The Flamingos, and the one and only Bobby Rydell. Saturday, October 30th, 7 p.m. at the legendary Capitol Theater in Wheeling. Presented by Community Bank and produced by Spotlight Productions.
A serious injury from an accident can be just the start of your worries. What if you cannot return to work? How do you take care of your family if you're disabled? At Gelner Law Offices, we represent seriously injured people and understand their problem. We know how to get you fair compensation. We will work hard to make sure you get the money you deserve for your losses. Don't go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
If you missed us the first time, keep going. You'll find us just down the dial. AM 1600 and 1370, FM 98.1 and 97.7. We are the Watchdog.
Miss a part of the show? Want to hear a segment again? Check out our podcast page at watchdognetwork.com. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
65 and rainy at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 65 and cloudy. I'm sorry, temperatures bumped up as I was speaking. 66 and cloudy here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, and 66 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Next hour, we hear a lot of talk about the nursing shortages because of even before the pandemic, nursing shortages were a bit of an issue. The pandemic has created a greater need for nurses, and more people are dropping out of the profession. I suspect there's going to be more nurses that are going to be needed because some are not going to take the vaccination mandates seriously. So there's a lot of nursing shortage issues to talk about. Next hour, we're going to talk with Dr. Reyna Latourneau, who is a professor of nursing at the University of South Florida, and wrote a piece recently on what she thinks the reasons for the nursing shortages are and what some maybe more creative ways of trying to fix the nursing shortage might be. So we will talk about that next hour. Plus, I've got some holiday stuff to get into. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. We're in that season of the year, and I got a few stories there. I should mention, actually, before I get to Brad, that our new poll up online at watchdognetwork.com is a holiday poll. Oh, I can hear some of you rolling your eyes already. But go to watchdognetwork.com. When do you start your Christmas shopping? Now? I'm worried about shortages. Black Friday, I shop there for the best deals. Or in December, when I'm really in the spirit. Those are the choices you have. Go to the watchdognetwork.com and vote in our opinion poll. Let me take a quick check of things here. Right now, we're tied between worried about shortages and in December. A few folks are going for Black Friday as well. We'll talk more about that coming up in the next hour of the show. A couple of texts here real quick. I'm sorry, Brad, just hang in there, my friend. Let's see, I want to get a couple of quick texts here at 304-214-1600. 304-214-1600 off the text line. Oh, man, don't tell me this. Do not tell me this. The one thing I missed while I was on vacation, I did not yet get a chance to see the new Sopranos movie, The Many Saints of Newark. It came out in theaters over the weekend. It was number 4 at the box office. But it's out on HBO Max as well, which is what I'll watch it on, and I'll watch it today. Got a text, Howard, don't know if you've seen Many Saints of Newark, but it's terrible. Don't tell me that. I've been looking forward to this for a year. The Sopranos is one of my favorite shows of all time. Oh, man. Well, I'm going to watch it today, and I'll make up my own mind on that. The same person said, yeah, maybe you'll like it. You ate bull's testicles, didn't you? Yes, I did. On vacation, I had Rocky Mountain oysters. And also text line 304-214-1600, talking about Joe Manchin. Manchin is a dino Democrat in name only. I don't know if I would use that phrase or not. Manchin is what we used to call West Virginia Democrat. He is the most West Virginia Democrat of West Virginia Democrats. I mean, he's very far to the right, but I said earlier, you'll never see Manchin change parties. He is at heart a Democrat, but he's a West Virginia Democrat. All right, let's get Brad McClendon in here this morning. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Howard. Welcome back.
Thank you. It was a tremendously enjoyable trip out west, although I have some issues to begin with, and by the time we get up to 12,000 feet almost at the top of the Rocky Mountains, man, was I having a hard time breathing.
Oh, man, yeah.
That air is very rarefied up there, but beautiful vistas. Just, I'm always amazed, I said to the audience, I'm always amazed when I travel at the huge variety of landscapes and culture and so on that we have in this country. We can get to be so narrow focused when we just stay in our own little venue. And traveling through the Red Rocks country and the Rocky Mountain country, just beautiful, beautiful country. What a just a good vacation, a good vacation. And Hoppy's away again today too. I did not go on vacation with Hoppy. I had people ask me, say, did you and Hoppy go together? No, I didn't go away. So, and I guess he's not back yet today.
Hoppy, he had a family situation and hadn't intended to take the week off, but is getting things wrapped up today, and we expect him back tomorrow. Back and strong.
Very good. Always good to get Hoppy back. So I didn't, because one of the things I learned when I was out in the Red Rock country, the Rocky Mountain country, is, man, internet's bad out there.
Oh, wow.
I did have a chance to stay on top of things, but it looked to me like the big statewide story of last week, if I had to pick one, probably was the redistricting efforts are now kicking into high gear, right?
Yeah, and, I find it interesting, particularly the congressional maps, which are any split you might imagine, but the basic debate is, well, should it be basically east-west, dividing the growing areas of Morgantown and the Eastern Panhandle, keeping those separate so that they can each be sort of their own center of gravity, or should you split sort of north and south, which is a more traditional way of dividing West Virginia? The North-South All-Star Game and the U.S. prosecutor for the Northern District of West Virginia. That's so often the way we divide the state. And the Senate Redistricting Committee had a pretty polite but vigorous debate about that basic issue the last time they met, and it was really interesting. I mean, I think that they'll go back to having partisan debates when they're looking at the maps of their own districts. But in this case, what I saw was senators divided along those geographic lines, with like Mike Wolfel, a Democrat from Cabell County, essentially united with Eric Tarr, a Republican from Putnam County, and what I heard was Rupi Phillips, Republican from Logan County, seemed to be in with them, saying, you know, we can't just divide. We can't put the southern counties in with the Eastern Panhandle, because the power base will be in the Eastern Panhandle, and that's where your representative is going to be from. So I just found it fascinating the way it was politically divided up, and the options for the state.
There are some constitutional requirements for what they call compactness, also for population equality and so on. I don't think there's any constitutional requirement, though, that the districts have to be similar in culture, income, and so on. And that, to me, is the problem with that southern, the southern part of the state mixed in with the Eastern Panhandle, which you said, to me, it's obvious unless there's some tremendously powerful politician who shows up from the southern area, that's going to be an Eastern Panhandle controlled district. And the concerns, if you're the congressperson, the concerns of the Panhandle are going to be, the Eastern Panhandle, are going to be very different from those of the southern states that are going to be attached to it. At least that's the way I would look at it.
I would think so. And, I think any fair-minded representative would travel to southern West Virginia and meet with the constituents and the other local elected leaders, other economic developers. But, boy, particularly being that close to Washington, it certainly seems like the focus would be Martinsburg and the surrounding area for that district. The other subplot that Wolfel and Tarr got into was, how do you divide the Charleston to Huntington corridor? And some of these maps do divide it, with Kanawha County on one side and Cabell and Putnam on the other. And they were making the case that those work as a unit and ought to be together. So these are, I think, just fascinating issues to get into, and whatever is decided, it's going to be the way it is for a decade.
Senator Caputo of Marion County, longtime House member, now senator, says we need to keep in mind the I-79 corridor. I want to keep it as sort of a dividing line.
Yeah, that's another split down the state. And he Senator Caputo expressed that divide as one meant to some degree unite the Pittsburgh area with Charleston. So people from Pittsburgh could just roll in down to Charleston and the other way around. And Caputo, to my ear, wound up united with Dave Seipold, a Republican senator from Preston County, who had maps showing the state split that way, and was advocating again for those Eastern Panhandle and Morgantown areas being in separate districts. And I think that puts Wheeling in with Morgantown and Parkersburg and other, I think similarly, as you said, cultural, economic, sort of areas with if not a natural gas, then a chemical and manufacturing background. So, there's something to be said for that split also.
So, sticking just with congressional for a second, and then I'll talk about the House in a minute, but for congressional districts, what's the next step? They have, 5-6 maps that are available online, I think, and that they're looking at different ways of doing this. What happens next?
Yeah, and more were coming. So if you're out there, the Senate and the House have posted their maps online, so you can go look at them. This is challenging radio talk because you're trying to describe these maps. I wish we could have a PowerPoint presentation, but at one point, Senator Trump, who is the chairman of the Senate's Redistricting Committee, had talked about going back in every day this week and rolling up their sleeves and really hitting it hard. But then late last week, he backed off that and said, well, let's just come back when we come back, because I think the citizens need more time. to take a look at these maps and absorb what they're really seeing, and we'll get back together after that. So that'll be later this week. And I think, all expect a special session next week to really make decisions on these maps, as well as maybe to begin allocating the Biden bucks, the most recent round, the American Jobs Act. If you've completely lost track, that was between the CARES Act and the current debate over infrastructure. So I think there may be some allocation of that money coming up next week.
In reading your stories about redistricting, Stephen Adams' stories, the Gazette Mail, it seems, as you said at the beginning of this segment, that politics isn't a huge factor in the congressional redistricting. They're really trying to think, what's the word I want to use, logically or intellect, I don't know, but it doesn't seem to be that there's a lot of politics there. But it does have huge political implications because we have 3 congresspeople and we only have 2 next time around.
Yeah, and I did hear Congressman McKinley advocate for the sort of diagonal split, I think, and he was advocating for keeping Morgantown and the Eastern Panhandle in separate districts, saying that they are growing areas that deserve their own moment in the sun, is the way I took him. But conveniently, that would put him out of the area that Congressman Mooney lives in, as well as out of the area that Congresswoman Miller is in. That would put Miller against Mooney if you did it that way, potentially, if everybody runs. So, I got to think that our congressional delegation watching closely.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all 3 have said they intend to run for re-election. Now, it doesn't mean they will, but they've all said that, I think. Am I right about that?
I think that's right. I think it's assumed that they all are. I mean, Congressman McKinley is of an age where he could say, I'm retiring, and people would say, all right, that makes sense. But he's given all indications he intends to keep on going.
Now, all right, so that's the congressional, and that's going to continue. The House, and let's talk about the House. The House has 2 issues to deal with. A, just the general redistricting that comes after a census, and the new requirement for single-member districts, which complicates things a lot. And it looks to me, you tell me if you read this the same way, it looks to me as I glance at some of these maps that there's more politics getting involved in the House realignment.
Yeah, that's hard for me to judge because Republicans have been so dominant the last few electoral cycles that it seems hard to gerrymander the state. And the areas that are Democratic strongholds, are Morgantown and Charleston and to some degree Fairmont, a little bit of Wheeling. So it's hard for me to judge. And if I understand it right, the House, which is now divided into 100 districts, does have 4 matchups of incumbent Democrats versus each other. So 8 total delegates, but 4 matchups for the primary. And then the GOP the same, or maybe 5 for the GOP. Now, but the thing is, when you've got a Republican supermajority, then you'd think there would be more Republican on Republican neighbor versus neighbor primary matchups. And it's about the same here, the number of Democratic primary matchups and the number of Republican primary matchups as it lays out. But, to what degree is that maybe a little intentional versus the Republicans are largely in rural areas these days and the Democrats are more in the urban areas.
So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The other thing they're changing, I guess it doesn't make a difference, but the numbering is going to change. Right now we start with the first district in the northern tip of the state and work our way down. They're going to number it the other way around, correct?
Yeah, it's flipping, and Delegate McGeehan always took pride in saying he's from the fighting first, and now he'll be, I guess, from the fighting 100th.
Well, listen, I know, Pat. He'll come up with some clever way to say it. All right, I appreciate your time this morning, Brad. Good to be back. Good to talk to you. We'll do it again probably even before the week is out, I suspect. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Howard.
Brad McElhenney, Metro News reporter. He'll be checking in with Dave Wilson today as well on Statewide Talk Line. Hoppy continues on break today. It's 65, 66 degrees. It's 9 o'clock. What's up with the nursing shortage, among other things, next hour?
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Are closed. Here's ABC.
Nancy.